Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started. So thank you so much everyone for joining us today for our MSIS-Bridge workshop with our Introduction to Product Management hosted by Forum and Pearl. We're so excited to learn from them today. They're absolutely fantastic. And I'll hand it over to you, Forum and Pearl, to take it over.
Thank you, Kaylee. Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Forum Karya and I'm here to share my passion for this dynamic field of product management with all of you. I'm more excited to be co-conducting this workshop with Pearl, who is my mentor, a great friend, the founder of the Aspiring Product Managers Club at Northeastern, and another woman in tech who inspires me. She's amazing. Imagine a world where ideas flourish, where innovations shape industries, and where user-centric products captivate hearts and minds. That is the world of product management, a realm where dreamers become creators and creators become catalysts for change. And before we dive into this exciting realm of product management, let me tell you a bit about myself. I'm a passionate product enthusiast with over 7+ years of corporate experience in functional requirement analysis as well as business analysis. And over the years, I have been fortunate enough to work with diverse teams and witness the transformative power of exceptional products, I would say. Coming from a non-STEM background, I am fortunate to be a part of this exceptional MSIS-Bridge program at Northeastern University that goes like above and beyond to empower us students and foster our professional growth. Moving ahead with the next slide. Well, if you can help me. Okay, so here's a funny picture which perfectly defines a hypothetical scenario about what the customer actually wanted and what went around in different teams and what was actually delivered to the customer. So that's where the role of product manager comes into picture. There is a reason why product managers are called mini CEOs of product, largely because they get like a bird's eye view rather than develop a mindset which only solves like a part of the problem. They have like a 360-degree level view of things. And the important thing is that they keep the user at the heart of the problem and then build products. And rather than building products that suit the leader's mindset in the organization or that benefits the shareholders, it is important that they build products that are keeping customer or the user at the center. Let me give you an example of an e-commerce platform. In the different steps of a regular e-commerce shopping cycle, say, for example, Amazon, the user first goes to the landing page, then they click on the product, and then they browse through different products. And if they like something, they add the product to the cart, and then finally make a purchase. Now, throughout this entire process, there can be drop-offs, wherein there's a probability that the user might browse but exit the app before they actually purchase something, or they might end up adding something to their cart but not buying it. So that's where a product manager's job comes into place, where he tracks those drop-offs at each stage to analyze the root cause behind those drop-offs and try to build features that solve those drop-offs. Moving on to the next slide. What does a product manager do? So there are multiple things that a product manager usually does. However, we have broadly categorized right now into 3 different categories. One is like defining the product strategy and vision. So defining the right strategic direction and vision for a product, making sure that it aligns with the company's goals and market needs is what is required. To give you a real world example, I would say a product manager at Amazon played a crucial role in developing and executing the strategy for Amazon Prime, focusing on enhancing customer loyalty. And how did he do that? Or that's how so Amazon has integrated Amazon Prime Video with the broader Amazon Prime membership, providing additional value to Prime subscribers. Now, this integration encouraged cross-selling between Amazon's various products and services, leading to increased customer loyalty. The second point being cross-functional collaboration, where product managers collaborate with various teams, such as the engineering team, the design team, the marketing team, and they develop the product and then launch it. So here communication plays a very vital role. To give an example, Airbnb launched the Superhost program, which is aimed at providing quality accommodation and enhancing the customer satisfaction of products. Product life cycle management basically means overseeing the entire life cycle of a product from ideation to launching the product, and also the post-launch optimization. To give a real-world example, I would like to illustrate the role of a product manager at Microsoft. So Microsoft has a suite of its products, and it includes different features, and the product manager has to take care to fix those any bugs that they see, because everything is integrated into one platform and runs smoothly. So based on the customer feedback, they incorporate relevance and competitiveness in their product. Moving on to the next slide. Okay. So this is just like a brief picture that demonstrates the cross collaboration of a product manager with different teams and the role that they play in an organization. Yeah, so next. Okay, so now this is one of the interesting topics. Basically, like everyone, so there is always a confusion surrounding what is the difference between product management as well as project management. And to explain in brief, product management mainly involves identifying the market needs, defining the product vision, the roadmap, doing some user research, and taking feedback based on clicks. So the ability to put yourself in the shoes of your users is the key to a product success. On the other hand, project management mainly involves like overseeing the projects in hand, the feature implementation, the timeline management, communicating progress with the stakeholders, and the resource allocation. So just as the product manager, like I said, is the CEO of the product, the project manager is basically the COO of the project, who is accountable for delivering the project within budget and time constraints. So largely a product manager is responsible for what and the why, whereas a project manager is responsible for who, when, and how. Yeah. Okay, product discovery. So to give an example, so product discovery is basically, it's hypothesis driven. So it's like making informed decisions based on the data and the evidence rather than relying on intuitions. So to give an example, WhatsApp introduced a new camera shortcut in place of the camera tab in the Android beta version. So in the previous version, they had the camera button besides the community feature. Now they have it on the top besides the search button. The users may or may not want to use the camera feature for status updates on WhatsApp. And the primary vision of WhatsApp was the text, the messaging, the messenger, right? So it made sense to do some user research and to find whether people are actually using the camera, the clicks are being made, and then enhance the next version of the product accordingly. And another example I could give you is that of Spotify. So Spotify has an amazing hypothesis-driven product discovery when developing their personalized playlist feature. So if you listen to a particular set of songs and a particular category, it tracks that. It tracks your likes, and it also tracks the songs that you skip. And accordingly, it gives you a playlist that is catered only to you. So every phone will have a different playlist depending on the choice of their songs. To identify if like a problem is actually a problem, or are we just digging solutions based on our intuitions, that is what product discovery basically is. Yeah, so we can go ahead with this. Okay, so user research. So basically, whenever we are assessing the launch of a new idea, we start by doing a sort of a technical research, wherein we conduct surveys, collect the data, we conduct interviews, we do observational research based on how the customer is, we observe how the customer is navigating through the app. And so these are the different techniques of doing user research. We have one more slide related to user research. Yeah, so these are other techniques where we have focus groups. We have we have groups of people which are focused basically to track what's happening, and we have usability testing, analytics, A/B testing, which is another important technique used for user research. So what A/B testing does is basically compares two different versions of a product feature. It involves randomly dividing like groups of users into two different groups, A and B, for example, alpha and beta version. And so to give an example, again, we have Amazon as the largest e-commerce platform, and we see that there is an add to cart feature there, but the button needs like some changes. So maybe we give like a green color button to group A and an orange button to group B, and then we see whether that change leads to more clicks in add to cart and whether it's actually leading to conversion of people actually buying the product. So that's A/B testing. And so basically, yeah, so we leverage A/B testing for businesses to make data-driven decisions and minimize the risks that are associated with changes instead of launching it together for all the audience. Yeah. Okay, so next is user personas. So what are user personas? So user personas are basically fictional characters which you create based upon your research to represent the different user types that might use your product or your service. So basically, we're trying to find a common thread to know our target audience. So because it is hypothetical, we construct personas that will ask the right questions and answer those questions for the users that we are designing for. And by developing user personas, product teams can empathize with the target audience, understand their needs, and make informed decisions. So this helps create like user-centered experiences and also meet specific preferences of and expectations of like key user groups. Now I'd like to invite Pearl to lead the rest of the presentation. Over to you, Pearl.
Thank you very much, Forum, and thank you for that very humbling introduction. Also, big thank you to the MSIS-Bridge team for looping me in for this. I'm very grateful to be here. And without taking up much time, we'll go on to the next part. So now we have understood that, okay, our problem is a real problem. Then we've seen that we've done research, understood how people are interacting with it, made changes, seen who we are targeting it to. Now we have a lot of things that we have to improve. We have 10 things, but we only have the time for 2 or 3, or the money for 2 or 3, or the resources for 2 or 3. And that's where prioritization comes into play. Prioritization is very important as a product manager, or even in general in life. Like you have 10 tasks a day, you'll have to prioritize, okay, I need to do these 2 first, and then the later we'll see. So something that is great about product management is all the frameworks it has. It's basically like putting a structure to ambiguity. And in this workshop, we are treating it more like a quick boot camp. So we'll be giving you terms, giving you explanations, but please go ahead and read more, because ours is just a very preliminary explanation of what we can concise in this session. So coming back to prioritization, we have Moscow, which is must have, should have, could have, and will not have. So for any platform, as we had the example of WhatsApp before, which is a messenger app, a must-have feature for it, its core value is its chat. That is something, if I was creating the first version of WhatsApp, it should definitely have chat. The call, status, search, everything else can take a backseat. So that is our must-have. And users might not tell us that, oh, this is what I want, but there is an inherent expectation that we expect this to be there. Like when you open a chat, you want to see your previous chats. No one will tell that they want to see it, but that is something that should be there. Then we come to must be there, I'm sorry. Then we come to should have. So should have are things that are essential, but not vital. So by that, something that is essential there would be a search button. So you can search and go to your chat, but it is not a must have, but it is a should have, because it will reduce the total time you take. Then could have is something that is not a problem. It wouldn't harm if it's not there, but it is something good to have, like the calls feature on WhatsApp. And then will not have are things that might be fancy, but are not required. Probably an VR or an AR feature to it. The core principle or the core vision of WhatsApp being, it is a messenger app connecting people. So an AR, VR might not play a picture in its first iteration. Now, so that is Moscow, our first framework. Another one is the Kano model, in which we divide our features into delighter, performers, and basic expectations. So basic expectations, again, you can relate it to the must-haves. Performers would be the should-have, and delighted would be the could-have. So delighted are things, if we have an AR feature on a messenger app, it would be so interesting. Like how Snapchat has these filters, you can send, click photos and send. You're delighted by it, but at the same time, the core value is sending snaps. That is like the basic expectation. And performance, probably going to the Snapchat example, would be having the streaks feature that kind of keeps people glued to it. This is our Kano model. Then we come to RICE. And this is kind of my favorite model because it helps us to like break down things, because in the previous models, it's a lot based on how you think. But in RICE, it's very clear cut. So here you take impact and effort. So effort is how much time it is taking or how many resources you need, all of that. So some feature might have a lot of effort, but the impact would be minimal. Impact is how the users are taking. So in RICE, like impact and effort, you're actually keeping both your stakeholders into view, both being one being the user and other being your team or the people you're working with. And that's about prioritization. Now, going on to the next. We have MVP. So this term is thrown around a lot. We hear about it a lot, and it is very, very important for any product. Like how we saw before, we have product discovery. We've identified pain points. We think this is the solution our target user needs. We've done user research, but it all boils down to, are they actually using it or no? Are they using our must-haves or no? So that is when our MVP comes into place. It's the most simplest way of validating our hypothesis. It can be if I go back to our WhatsApp example, it can be as basic as just having a chat feature on an app. Are people using it? Do they like it? Are they sticking with it? So that would be our minimum viable product. And again, there are different ways of checking, of creating your minimum viable product. So creating an app like with the minimum messaging capability does also take a lot of resources, a lot of effort. And so building an MVP to validate an idea has been like broken down into much simpler ways. And these are a few examples. There is a link here. All the terms are here. Please go and read up on it. But I'll just briefly go through it. So landing page MVP would be, we had an app that had blown out of proportion called as Clubhouse during lockdown, during the pandemic, peak pandemic, I'd say. And they started off with having only an invite-based thing. You can just go see what it is about and sign up for it, and you're put on the wait list, or you need a referral to get into it. In that way, they're gauging the interest. Are people liking our idea? Are they looking into it? So that is our first type. And it is the lowest cost, but it also gives you mediocre amount of evidence. Like people are saying they like it, but we're not very sure if they really like it. And then we have all these others. And then I'll come to the last one, the video explainer one. So this is, I think, something which Dropbox had done, not very sure, but so the way it goes is you have a video explaining of how it works, how it will benefit, how it changes the way you're working or the way it will impact you. And then you see how many people are interested. So a lot of these campaigns, they have explainer videos to see if people like it or no. And then they get into building the product. Or with the video, there might be people who just put in money or like subscribe to it. And then they go in from them, gauging the interest. And that's MVP. Now, there are, again, a lot of different terms in the same arena. One is MVP, MMP, and MLP. And this is how, this depends from company to company. We'll just go over the terms so that you are acquainted with it. So MVP, as we went on before, MMP is marketable. So it is, if you're selling it to someone else, if it is a B2C product, B2B product, you're selling it to a business. So it should have certain number of features so that you can, so that the salespeople can tell them, okay, our platform does this, does that, kind of a way. The next is minimum lovable product. So this can be something where the interface is very enjoyable. People like using it, so they come back to it. My kind of favorite example for it is Instagram or Be Real. Like for Be Real, there is a sense of mystery that people come back to it. Like, oh, I can only go and put something when I get an update, and then I can see my feed. In Instagram, the way it looks is very beautiful, and that's what makes it lovable. But again, both of these are not the minimum level. Right now, what we see is a very high level. But for the minimum part, it's like the most basic feature of it for which people would start liking it. And here the UI UX is of utmost importance. Now we've gone through the pain points, we've discovered it's an actual one, prioritized what we want to solve, given a small solution. Now let's go a bit behind of all this is taking place, but we work with a lot of teams. How do we ensure that all of them are on board? And that's where a product requirements document comes into place. It's kind of like a Bible for a feature or a product that is being rolled out, because as a product manager, you won't be in the room all the time to explain your point of view or to ensure everyone is on the same page. Like we are taking this session right now, but there is a high chance someone has just zoned out momentarily. So this video recording will help you go back and understand better. So similarly, a product requirements document is something that PMs focus or rather press engineers and designers to go through, so that they know what is the mindset of the PM, what is the research they have done, what does the numbers say, what do users say, and then they can dive down into how they solve it. And yes, this is a small meme that I found relatable on the usual reaction of product managers when engineers say, oh, we haven't gone through the PRD yet, we'll let you know. And yep, now when we say as a Bible or a document, it's not something that's static. So once you've created it, there would be multiple iterations, and rather than making different versions or different documents, it's changed in the same one according to the change in scope, change in the team dynamics, a requirement, we modify the requirements. And in product requirements documents, something of key importance is the principle you go by, the principle for which the feature stands for, and it is always in alignment with the company or the bigger picture of the product. Like if we take, again, going back to WhatsApp, because we've been sticking to that example since the start. In WhatsApp, it has to be minimal. It has to follow a certain font. All these things are like the basic requirements of it. Now, this is a format. It again depends from company to company, how they work. So from my place of internship, where I intern as a product manager intern, as well as a course I've taken and I'm currently a TA for, this is like a mixture of both ways of writing a PRD document or a product requirements document. And to me, it kind of embraces all the important points that an engineer or someone who has absolutely no idea of what you're thinking through would need in order to be acquainted with the entirety of the feature or what we are aiming for. So first, of course, is the purpose. And at this stage, it's very important to clearly explain your why. Because if I need to convince you for something, I just have to explain like the why or my reasoning behind it. And that would definitely help you sympathize with me, or more than sympathize, I'd say, understand my point of view. So that's where purpose comes into play. Then we have findings. So here, as we had gone before, we go through the user persona, the pain points we identified, the user research techniques we went through, the summary of it, because that is what is important than the entirety of the process. And a hypothesis to the solution, like, okay, these are the things and we think this might be good, kind of a way. Now, again, as product managers, you don't write about the how. So we don't write, okay, you can use Python to do this, or you should keep the button here for this. All that is the part of the engineering team or the design team. We have to give them the best case scenario of what we need it to do, like the end result of it, and how we think the user will pursue it. Perceive it, I'm sorry. Then we come to principle. So as I mentioned before, these are the core values or the North Star of the feature or the page. Then goals and metrics. So anything we do in life in general, we always have a goal or something that we want to reach, some metric that we have in our head. It can be as simple as being better than I was today. Maybe yesterday I slept for 6 hours. Today I want to sleep for 7 hours. So we always have a measure of improvement, and that is the measure with which we say, what have we reached our goal? Was it successful or no? And right when we are writing about a feature, we have to be very clear about a goal or metric. Now, in the slides ahead, we would be coming to metrics, so I'll leave it for then. Then user persona, as Forum had covered before. Here we write about, we create a commonality, write about their frustrations, expectations, the goals they have, the kind of background or demographic they are from. And then the key ingredient, which all this drives to, is requirements. So requirements are all the things you need. Like, again, going back to WhatsApp, the key ingredient is it should have a chat page. You should be able to open a contact and see the chats. You should be able to type a message. You should be able to send a sticker. I mean, that's not a should have, but in the current version of WhatsApp, it's like a very exciting thing to do. Then, and in requirements, something that was followed where I worked was putting examples. And I personally find that to be a great way, because it puts into perspective what you have written. Like when I use the example of WhatsApp, you were able to relate with it. So if I put an example when I'm writing my requirement in layman terms, it does put things into perspective. And then, of course, the dependencies. So other features that might be interlinked, things that we might need to keep in mind. It can be things ranging from security to adjacent feature. And that's most of this covers a product requirements document. Again, as I mentioned before, it depends from company to company, the way they have organized things internally, but this is the most basic and covers kind of most of the things. Now coming to user stories. So user stories is a way, sometimes it's written as part of the product requirements document, sometimes on platforms like Jira or other lifecycle management tools. Product managers usually just give out the PRD, but in some companies, they do end up writing user stories. User stories are usually written by the head of engineering or the lead person on the engineering team. But it can also be written by product managers because it puts into perspective what the persona wants to do to attain something. And this is an example, like if our persona is of a manager, he wants to understand the progress so that he can gauge their success or failure. And this puts into line on what who the person is, what we want, why we want it. And again, as I said, what and why, and as even Forum mentioned, what and why are very important to be put clearly as a product manager. Now, success metrics. Again, as I had mentioned before, frameworks are something that makes product management so beautiful. It kind of puts a structure to ambiguity, or rather, more than ambiguity, it just puts structure to existing things. And that's something that's nice about it. So these are two common success metric frameworks. One is called the Pirate metrics because That's how it sounds when you say it together. And other is heart metrics, which is something that is followed by Google. I haven't worked in Google yet, so I don't know, but this is what I've read in articles. Coming back to the pirate metrics, it's most commonly used in general because it covers the entire life cycle of how things work. So acquisition is getting in people, how that is going. Activation, now once you've got them, are they using the platform? How is their experience? Are they engaging with it? Then retention, are they staying with us? Are they coming back to us? Revenue, okay, now we have them here, they are engaging with it, they are coming back. Now what is in it for us? How are we getting back our investment? And the last is, are more people joining us? Are these people recommending it to others? And this kind of encapsulates in the entirety of metrics. Now, all these can be different types, different kinds, depending on the stage of the company, their maturity level, the company's goals at that level, or what kind of company they are. But by a bird's eye view, this is like the most basic way to put it. So here are a few terms that are commonly used in success metrics. One is OKR, or like objective and key results. That's like another term. In some companies, OKR is used instead of success metrics. These points are not like related to each other. These are commonly used terms. So I thought I should put it here. North Star metric is the main metric that the product or the feature is focusing on. Like a main metric can be increasing the session time by 20 minutes per day. That can be their North Star or the main metric they're looking at, and all the others come as secondary ones. Then customer satisfaction. So every product will only exist, and not just exist, but thrive if the user is satisfied with it. And that's where the CSAT score comes into place. Again, companies and different products, organizations, all of them have their own way of measuring it, but everyone does measure it because it's an important part of their feedback cycle. Then we have Net Promoter Score. So Net Promoter Score is like how we were talking about referral. Are people talking about it to others? So Net Promoter Score tells us that, is it being shown in a positive light? Are people starting to use it or no? And conversion rate, going back to one of our first examples in this workshop, which Forum had gone through, about a checkout on an e-commerce platform. So conversion rate on a very high level term is if people are adding something to their cart, are they buying it or no? Like, is that being converted as sales or no? And this is only for an e-commerce example. Conversion rate can again differ from organizations. And yes, I think that pretty much sums up our little introduction to product management. I would really request you to go read up on these terms. All of them have a lot of examples if you just go on the web, and it's very interesting to read. I myself ventured into product management because I saw the term and then just went down a rabbit hole reading and reading, and obviously got to practice it in real life. Now, coming to real life, we all want to prepare our resume either to apply to co-ops or full-time roles. I'm also in the process of applying for full-time roles right now, and these are a few terms that are usually used in product management, and it's good to incorporate in your resume. Again, personally, I don't know how the application tracking system works, but this is kind of like our best bet. But something, once it reaches a recruiter, our duty is to leave an impact with them. So a very good way of writing is having an action verb, what you accomplished or what the responsibility you had, and the impact or the result. And the example, and always put numbers, because and percentage is fine, but I prefer numbers because percentage is very relative to each other, but at times we are not supposed to share numbers, so percentage is good. So for example, here we have led being an action verb. Our responsibility was the cross-functional team, and the accomplishment we did was to successfully launch a new product. The impact it had was a 20% increase in sales. And yes, something very important is if you have the time frame, that's very good to add. So 20% increase in the first quarter. If it was a 20% increase, this line versus 20% increase in 4 years is different. The impact created by it is different. So it's always good to add time when you have percentage, because that, though it's relative, it kind of gives you an understanding of, okay, in this period, this change happened, and it justifies the percentage. Then we have, now once your resume has gone through, you get that call for an interview. And most of us spend so much time perfecting our resume and doing all the back-end things that finally when we get the call, we just stand like, okay, now what to do, now when to start learning. And I'd always suggest, probably because I'm a person who believes a lot in practice, like things come to me with practice. So it's always good to keep on practicing for interviews, even though you might not have calls, you're just in the process of applying, because when you get that call or when your resume gets shortlisted, you wouldn't be wasting your time learning new concepts. You'd be revising over them, learning more about the company, how it works, and retrofitting it into all the frameworks that you have in your mind. So these are a few resources. APM list, you get like the list of companies there. Then a great book is Cracking the PM Interview. I've read it once. Forum, I think, reads it like a Bible daily. She was telling that she has the hard copy of it and she goes through it when she gets time. Then Exponent is again a good YouTube channel with a lot of mock interview videos. So going through those videos, writing it down, or whichever way your practice is very helpful. And then there are a lot of good YouTube channels by product managers, especially when you're curating yourself for the interview. We are asked a lot of behavioral questions. Again, our next slide is the type of questions. I'll go in depth there. But PM Diego does go through a few of them. So his is a good YouTube channel to follow. And last but not the least is, now we are preparing for interviews. So for internships or co-ops, the most common questions are product design, root cause analysis, or behavioral. And then for full-time roles, it can be absolutely anything under the sun, depending on the role and the company. So I'll just go over a few of them. Product design can be questions like, create a new feature for YouTube to increase its engagement. Or it can be a question like, create a feature for Facebook for video streaming. So they can either tell you the feature they want, or they can tell you the metric they want to achieve. Now, in a few FANG companies, they also ask very different questions, like design a refrigerator for a blind person, or design a watch for a child. Like, these things might exist, but it's a very niche audience and you might not be in those shoes. So this kind of makes you think from the point of view of your possible target user. In some of them, they do tell you who the target user is, like kids or differently abled people. But for some, they might just tell you what they want to achieve. Now it's up to you for who do you want to achieve. And I think the best part of product interviews is it's a lot of Q&A, like you're talking with your interviewer, you're continuously interacting with them, ensuring that you're going in the right track according to them, because there is no right answer. Something can be your point of view, something can be theirs. And talking and asking questions would definitely give us a lot of insight into which direction they want us to think. And as a PM, it's very important to understand what the users think. So here, it kind of gives you an insight into what your user or your current receiving end, which is the interviewer, needs. Then behavioral questions. You could just type behavioral questions on Google and you'll get a list of them. A few of them could be tell me about yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses? How do you manage conflict? These are like the most common behavioral questions. And then we have root cause analysis. So root cause analysis is YouTube is has 20% less session time than last month. Why could this possibly be? So again, you go into reasoning. It is a lot of Q&A. You give them possible hypotheses, and then they tell you this might probably not. Oh yes, this is a probable thing, and then you go down from there. Now these are the types of interview questions. I would again request you to go to those YouTube channels. Exponent is a great YouTube page. They even have a website where you can take a subscription. I'm not very sure about how that works, but the YouTube channel does have a lot of solved questions in these different categories, and it would be very helpful. Forum, do you want to add anything?
I think it's great, unless somebody has a question in particular.
We have something in the chat. Oh, okay, that's the link.
That was from me. I was just sharing the interview.
Oh, yes.
That you
Thank
shared.
you very much. Yeah, and I guess that's about it. Thank you very much for having us and listening to us so patiently.